Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. This isn't the Plasma 6 video yet, but I did want to show you guys something that I've been working on. I have been working on a complete rewrite of my website. Why would I do that? Well, one of the reasons is I want to save a little bit of money each month. I have been gaining more Patreon subscribers, and it's been meaning a lot to me, but, you know, I don't want to waste everyone's money. I would like to use it effectively. And right now I pay about 49 bucks a month Canadian to host all of the websites that I have, including some stuff for Trixel Creative. It's a little much, and I'd like to decrease that cost. So one way to do that is to try to move as much off of my server as possible so that it doesn't need as many resources. And the way that I did this, the way that I decided to do that after some discussion in the community, is to switch to GitHub pages. But GitHub pages is obviously static, as in, you put files in a GitHub repository, and out comes a website based on that Git repository. You can do some basic dynamic content with it using Jekyll, which is a static site generator, but beyond that, you're dealing with HTML and CSS and some client-side JavaScript. There is no server that you have control over. But if you have the right tools, you can still design a website without having to worry about writing HTML from scratch, which I didn't want to do. And you can still have something not unlike my WordPress site, just in GitHub pages, and managed locally from my computer. It's actually developed inside JetBrains Rider on my computer, and then I push it to Git, and then magic happens, and then the website gets updated. Now, I'm going to be doing that for both acidiclight.dev, which is my personal website, and the Socially Distant website. I don't know if they're going to remain separate websites or what I'm going to do in that case, but either way, they are both going to switch from WordPress to a static site generator called Astro on GitHub pages, which also makes them completely open source, which is, you know, cool. And I no longer need a username and a password to log in to an admin panel that barely works. I can just use my GitHub, and I can develop things locally. I can add new features. I can write articles using Markdown. That's kind of cool. Let me show you guys around the website. It does look mostly identical to the old website, which, by the way, for the next week or so from the point of recording this video, you can get to by doing old.acidiclight.dev and go there. You can see they kind of look the same. So there's a little bit of subtle difference between the two. You can tell that they are different websites, but overall, it's mostly the same layout. I'm going to compare them side by side. Why not? Why not do that? Let's see how I can do that. There we go. So we got one side by side with the other. The left is the old site, and the right is the new site. So on the old site, you have, you know, similar header bar, but a little bit of a different visual design to it. There are some social links that are missing, which always annoyed me. And then the big blue panel with my profile picture on it, and an introduction of who I am. There are some buttons there, I think. Let me zoom in. Yeah, there are. One of them is About Me, and then My Work. I don't know if I will add those back to the other site, because they're already in the nav bar, and I don't know. But if we scroll down a little bit, you get the My Work section, which is a list of things that I work on. Right now, that would be Socially Distant and Restitched. But something that always bothered me about this one is that these images here, they're not actually links. it's not a good click target. I don't like how hovering over it gives it this blue overlay, and then you get like a zoom icon and an expand, I guess, icon. I don't know, maybe that's what that does, but either way, this is not what this should be doing, because these should be clickable links that take you to the project that I'm working on. I also don't like how they don't have a consistent size. The Restitched image is a little bit wider and not as tall as the socially distant one, so it looks weird, and I never liked how this laid out, but I didn't have any control over it because it's WordPress. But anyway, that's the My Work section. Then below, we have the blog, which shows the 5 most recent articles, because that's the only articles I've ever written on this site. But they're there, and they're in this kind of grid panel, which, you know, it works. And obviously down here is the community section, where there's a Discord widget that shows all the members on the Discord server, or at least most of them, and then a little call to action: come join the Discord server, come say hi, or find me somewhere else, with some really weird looking social icons that I don't like, and again, some of them are missing. Anyway, then we have a footer, and it's really hard to tell that you've reached the footer. And it's not a great footer. It looks very weird. There's a quote from Raphael, the old lead programmer of Restitched, that I've always had in my footer, but I have not added that to the new site. Okay, so that's the old site, the home page. The new site, there's still a little bit missing from it, so we have this little disclaimer here saying, hey, you're viewing the new version of my website. There are bugs. All the content's been moved over, but if you experience any bugs, report them. Report them to me. It'll take you to GitHub. And then we have the blog section, which this time around we have only 3 posts that it shows. I decided to go for showing only the 3 most recent posts. And then you get a View All Posts button, which takes you to the actual blog page, which is a grid. Now, there are 2 blog posts here that don't have featured images. They've never had featured images, so I just haven't added a default one yet. But this UI is temporary, and I'm not done, so it's fine. And then we don't have the My Work section just yet. I'm about to add it tomorrow. But we do have the Discord section and the community section, and the social links are actually... that's all of them. All of them are there. And as far as the header goes, it's basically the same, except the only difference being here, the order and the actual look and feel of these navigation links are different. The logo is a little bit smaller, I think. Actually, no. The logo in this one, the old one, is the Richie profile picture that I always use. And then actual text. And it's not the right font. It's not the right font weight. It's not the right spacing. None of it's right. That is not the correct logo. In this case, it is just the actual image. This is the image that will appear when you play a game made by me. So, you know, there you go. It's the proper font, it's the proper spacing between the text and the Richie logo. It's all good. And then over here we have social links. All of them are there, and they look consistent. The footer looks completely different in this one. It's a lot simpler. We have the logo, obviously, and then we have some copyright info, a link back to the website with my legal name, so that it actually does carry legal weight. So don't steal my shit. And then we have a little bit of credit to the person who drew Richie, which would be Potato Farm. And then we have the social links. again. And then if you have accessibility issues, there's a link to report the bugs to the GitHub. This will always be here, even when that temporary banner goes away. The Raphael quote is missing, but it's trivial to add it back. Don't worry, I will add it back eventually. Anyway. So, now let's head to the About page on both of them. So we'll go here, and then we'll go here. So the About page kind of goes over who I am, how I got into computers, and all that wonderful stuff. I may be biased, but it is a good read. It's quite a long one, too, on both pages. And then you can see there's a lot of images here, that, and a lot of videos, too. And it's this really long page. And that's how it looks on the main site. So, there's not a whole lot of color here. And crucially, something that looks a little bit, I will say a bit better in this page is how I've laid out all of these videos and images and stuff like that. They use WordPress columns, which works well, but it kind of required doing a little bit of stuff by hand to get it the way that I want it to look. But you can see there's Richie. Over here, there's a little bit too much spacing between Richie and the actual paragraphs next to him, which I didn't like. But I couldn't do anything about that because Richie is a very tall image, and this is the smallest size of a column you can have. So this empty space here is just a column. But you know, there's a little Windows XP thing there, some more XP down here. Over here, there's a missing image that actually used to be hosted on Discord CDN, but Discord CDN started deleting images after a while. And that sucks. But there's some videos here, more videos, and then another video, and then, yeah. So, this is how the About page looks on this website. Not a whole lot of color, not a whole lot of stuff going on, just a bunch of text, a bunch of images, and some fancy layout, I guess. On this site, it's a lot different. First of all, the blue banner here that would have appeared on the main page is also here, but instead of the Richie logo being there, you just have the page title, a little summary of the page, and then you have an article. And then it's all the same text. There's less distance between Richie and the text here, so that's good. There's a bit of white space here, cool. And then in this case, the way that I did the images, I didn't use WordPress columns, obviously. This is all Markdown. Okay, it's MDX, so there's some stuff in here that's, like, not possible to do in Markdown, mainly the YouTube embeds. But, all the images are actually using CSS Float. Like it's 1998. But it's done in a way where, it actually looks visually pleasing. This is probably the only time you should ever use CSS Float for images, is when you're doing stuff like this and trying to get text to flow around an image. But what that basically means is, I can put an image in, and then in the Markdown file, just keep writing text, and it'll flow around. I don't have to worry about columns or anything like that. And on mobile, it does actually sort itself out and make sure that it doesn't use CSS Float. It will fall back to a responsive full-width image. So don't worry, mobile users, I thought of you. But yeah, this is basically all Markdown. The only thing that isn't Markdown is the YouTube videos embeds, because you cannot do a YouTube embed in Markdown without wanting to die. But where that old missing image was, I replaced it. It is now a PlayStation Store page on a PlayStation 3 for LittleBigPlanet demo. That's what the missing image was. I had to retake this image yesterday on my PS3, and in the middle of it, my PS3 SSD decided to disconnect from the from the motherboard somehow, and I couldn't get the PS3 to boot. But I managed to fix it, and I managed to take the screenshot, and we are gonna keep this screenshot here till the end of time. I don't care. Also, if you guys are wondering how I got the old PlayStation Store layout, like the old 2009 one, I will do a video on that. But it does require CFW. I think you can do it on Hen, but you are not doing that on an official firmware, and Sony might hate you. But for nostalgia reasons, and to get the accurate, authentic screenshot, I needed to do it, and it turned out great. I love how it looks, honestly, except for, I think there's, like, something KDE in there, maybe? Or is it Artifact? I can't tell. No, there is a fucking KDE window there. I'm gonna have to retake the screenshot. You know what that is? That is a spectacle window of me screenshotting the screen. I don't know what happened there. Thank you, KDE. But, you know, other than the KDE window that's completely out of place, I think it looks pretty great. Anyway, so yeah, that's the About page on the news site. It's all the same content, just a little bit different layout. And then, yeah. So now let's go to a blog with an actual image. So we'll go here. And we'll go to the same one. I think it would be this one. Yep. So, blog layouts have a little bit of a different design. This one I chose in particular because it uses a white, a very white preview image, or a featured image, or whatever you want to call it. So on this blog article, obviously lacking a lot of color, and it really just looks like a Word document with a little bit of fancy formatting, and a lot of white space below each image that has no business being there. That's one thing I noticed that I didn't like. But, yeah. The old site, the blog article is really nothing to write home about. There are more issues with them than there is things to talk about. On the news site, you can see that I'm using that same style, blue banner here. But in this case, it's doing an overlay over top of the image associated with the blog article. The reason I'm doing that is some images cause contrast issues with the text because the text is white. And if there are contrast issues, I have a feature where I can go and say in the markdown, hey, I expect contrast issues with the font. Please render a blue overlay over the hero image, and it will dutifully do it. So you get the title, you get a summary of the post, and then you get a category. So in this case, this is a socially distant devlog. So there's the category. And then you get a publish date. And if I ever update an article, it will also show an update date. And then obviously it's just an article. But the images, they have alt text now. So if you hover over them, actually I don't know if alt text applies to hovering over, but screen readers will see the alt text. We also have, I fixed the white space issue. So, you know, there's no white space below the images. That's good. There's a few formatting issues here and there with, like, headings and stuff like that, but ultimately it's a lot better. But yeah, that's blog article. Another article worth looking at would be the Letters to My Past Self one about nullability. This one will show code blocks, and code blocks I'm really happy about with the new site. Let's scroll down to one. As you can see, this one There's no syntax highlighting. You don't know what programming language this is. Well, I could tell you the programming language is C#, but you'd have to know C# to know that. Or at least know enough programming to be able to infer maybe this is a C-like. Or maybe this is actually C#. There's no syntax highlighting whatsoever. You know, even if you don't need syntax highlighting to read code, syntax highlighting looks nice on a web page. Trust me. And there's also no border between the code and the rest of the content. So it's really hard to tell when you're just skimming, unless you're looking close to the padding, that there's the end of the code block. And that's kind of annoying. Really, all WordPress does when you insert code is it adds some padding and adds pre-formatted white space and sets the font to monospace. It's not actually a code block. So that's great. But, you know, this one is a code block. You can see there's a very defined border. There is syntax highlighting. And there's a background color. So you should have absolutely no trouble distinguishing between code and regular text. And also it does have syntax highlighting, which is good. But yeah, this is an example of a blog article with code in it. And as you can see, if there's no image supplied with the article, it will fall back to the normal blue banner that we have over here. Okay, so now let's look at some of my work. This page is work in progress. Okay, so we're going to look at Restitched here. I'm going to show you guys both socially distant and Restitched to show you guys an example of what I can do with my work screen. So we'll go Restitched on here. As you can see, Restitched on here, on the left, is there's the key art. It's about the only color on the page. And, you know, there's some text, some lists. On the side, there's a name, some text, and a data table. Maybe a link. I think this is a link. Yeah, it's a link. Went to Restitched, the website. Cool. But, you know, not great. It's not very flashy at all. But it's a lot better on the other one. So first things first, we have the I don't know what happened. I broke something. What the? Okay, I seem to have fixed it. Alright, so up here we have the blue banner again, and you can see how it's kind of overlaying over the Restitched logo. Which, you know, I would probably also add a blur here, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But we also have a regular version of the key art over here. It's a lot smaller. It's more like you would see on a Steam store page. And then you have some project info, which admittedly it's the data table. It's not really anything fancy, but it doesn't need to be. It gets the job done. Then over here we have markdown content, so I can kind of go over some of what I've worked on in Restitched and stuff like that, kind of like a resume. And then we have the trailer list. This is a really neat feature I added to my projects page. For any project, if there's a video trailer of it, I can just embed that trailer directly in the page, and all I have to do is specify the YouTube ID for the trailer inside of a YAML list, and then name the trailer, and then it'll automatically generate the heading and stuff like that. It's really nice. So, you know, there's the, you can play it. It is actually a YouTube embed on the page. Like, we're watching the Trixel Creative Restitched reveal trailer. Like, there it is. I'm not going to keep playing it. But on the side here, below the data table, we also have some project links. And they're actual buttons, and they have icons. So, for example, you can go to the Restitched website. and it will go to the it will go to the Restitched website. I don't know why that took so long. Or what happened. Detective Stuffy can't find that page. Did I 404 it? That's not good. I do believe I have 404'd the webpage. It should have gone to trixelcreative.com. So, there is an extra quote mark there. I will show you guys the demonstration of how to fix that soon. But anyway, you can also go to the store page on Steam. And there's the store page on Steam. So yeah, and then obviously, you've seen all of that stuff. And then there is the socially distant one. Which, on this one, on both of them, it's quite barren because there's not a whole lot for me to put for socially distant yet. But, you can see it looks fundamentally different. This is what the hero thing looks like when there isn't when there isn't the blue overlay. So with the socially distant background, obviously it's dark, so the text is going to contrast properly. So you can disable the blue, overlay in that case. There's the key art, the project data, and then these links. I can define as many links as I want. They can have any icon I want as long as it's material design and it exists. And, you know, there's a website. It takes you to sociallydistantgame.com. And then, you know, you can go to the GitHub for the organization, community forums there, the store page. This is a placeholder link, but when the store page does show up, I can easily update the page, and then it will link to the store page, which is really neat. Anyway, and then there's also the online manual, which takes you to MediaWiki. So yeah, okay, that's the projects system. It's really neat. And then on mobile, we can get to mobile by doing F12 on both sides. So, you know, if you've never used Chrome DevTools before, you can hit F12 to get into your inspect element, obviously, which everybody knows how to do. But then there's a little icon you can click in the corner to switch to mobile emulation. And this is how I've been testing mobile. On the old site, mobile is handled by WordPress, basically by the theme. And then the menu icon is just a drop-down, and it doesn't look particularly great. But it exists, and it's functional. On this one, I tried to do the drop-down on my own. And the way it works, the way it's meant to work, is... It doesn't quite work in principle on mobile. I've tested it on my phone, but it's supposed to be a full-screen overlay, not unlike the one from Squarespace, actually. And you get my logo, you get the navigation links, and then you get the social links in this more mobile-friendly view, and then the blue overlay, so you can see what's behind this menu and what page you're basically on. And then it's blurred and all that stuff. I did try to add a transition, but I couldn't get that working. And obviously you can click on the aesthetic light button here to go home, or you can click on the menu icon. The nav bar stays on top. Now, this is what I've been talking about with the issue. For some reason, it's scrollable. It should not be scrollable when you're in that menu. So there's definitely an issue there. And if anyone knows how to fix that, please let me know. This is open source, by the way. But anyway, I'm not done making the website, obviously. I'm still working on it, but yeah, I thought I'd give you guys a little look at how it's coming along. It's been in development for the past 2 or 3 days, and I've been having a lot of fun. I'll admit some of it has been fucking utter nuisance fun, but a lot of it has been actual fun, and I'm really excited. And with that all said, the old site is still accessible, but I will not be adding content to it. If anything, I will be removing content. I just want to make sure I get everything transferred over before I shut it down completely. And then I'm going to do the socially distant site. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I never know how to outro these, honestly. It's always been a challenge, but I'm going to wing it. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, maybe about why GitHub Pages is actually powerful. I also want to thank my patrons for supporting me through developing Socially Distant and making it so I can do this kind of stuff and have fun doing it. And I also want to thank some members from the community, the Evil Skeleton, Ash, and Kainoa, for helping out with actually putting the website together. You guys have been extremely helpful with helping me get through this. It's been amazing. And yeah, that's gonna do it. The next video I make will be on Plasma 6. And it will be quite long. So yeah, as always, have a Michael, even though everyone calls me Richie. I'll see you guys in the next video. Still haven't set up the stream deck. That's another video. See you guys later.